Welcome to another episode of Experience Andy Weins Live. This is our opportunity every week to come together and push ourselves to become the people that we ultimately were put on this earth to be. So I thank you for joining me. And today we're going to start our show, as always, with a moment of gratitude. I take this time every week to reflect back on what am I grateful for in the last 7 days? Who has impacted my life? What revelation have I learned that's going to inspire me to continue on this journey to become the person I was meant to be? And this week, I want to give a shout out and a moment of gratitude to Jim and Sue. Jim and Sue are the parents of my girlfriend, Jenna. I stopped by their house on Sunday afternoon. I had some time. When I stopped by, thought it might be a short visit. I ended up chatting for about 3 hours, really getting to know them. It was the first chance I've had to get to know them, and only the three of us, where my girlfriend wasn't there, my daughter wasn't there, my parents, other people weren't there. We just spent time hanging out as some yard work was being done, as the sun was setting. We spent time getting to know each other. Great conversation. Afterwards, my girlfriend had a conversation with her mom and talked about an observation her father made. Her father made the observation that I'm two different people. I'm Andy with a hat on, and I'm Andy with a hat off. And I thought that was quite interesting because my hat, as you notice, I'm not wearing today. My hat is like my safety blanket. It's my ready to go to war thing. 6 years ago when I did my TEDx, I remember they said I couldn't wear a hat. So I walked out on stage with my hat on, as I always do, and I wear it down a little bit. And I got on stage, and as soon as I got on stage, I took it off and I put it in my back pocket. I went on to deliver a 13-minute TEDx about transforming pain into passion to find my purpose. And at the end, I put my hat back on. In that time, I recall this was my opportunity to be vulnerable. When I take my hat off, it's me really being Andy, while the hat on is this persona of a person who's ready to go to war, go to work, get things done, versus being me. And through that observation and the time spent, and the time we've spent getting to know each other over the last few months, it's really culminating in this idea of being good enough. And so in that moment, they've accepted me into their house, into their hearts, into their family, and accepting me for who I am, and even observing such a simple detail as to who I am when I have a hat on and when I have a hat off. And on Sunday, I'd had my hat off because I came over after a funeral and I was more of an introspective mood at the time. So thank you to them, not only for accepting me for who I am, for bringing out those great places of me, those vulnerable pieces of me, and moreover, to have the wherewithal and the insight to point out a blind spot I had about myself. And I know it, and yet they could see it from a third person perspective, which makes it even more true. It went from an assumption or idea I had to, wow, there is actually something tangible behind that. And because of that, today, as I'm here on this show, I take my hat off, and we'll see. And even last week, I was down in Missouri doing a keynote, and I made the choice not to wear my hat. And there's no way they would have known that. And yet, when I'm on stage, I take my hat off so I can be vulnerable with the audience. And even now, moving forward, I'll be taking my hat off as I do the show. So it allows me to be more vulnerable, be more of Andy and less of the person I am masking and being, per se. That confident person with a strong voice that I come across when I have the hat on and I'm in go mode or work mode. So appreciate them, thank them for accepting me for who I am and teaching me something about myself. So that was an amazing nugget that I've got from the last week. All right, let's pay some bills. Why am I here? Why do I do this? 81 episodes into Experience Andy Weins Live. This is my opportunity to give and create new ideas and perspectives to share with the world. My ultimate goal is to get on the stage. This is my opportunity to speak to the masses here on social media. I love getting in front of groups 12 to 20, doing workshops for 4 hours. Last week, I was in Missouri speaking to a group of 300. I did a 60-minute workshop on the language of leaders and, moreover, how words can form your career. Because when you make those shifts in your language, it shifts your perspective about the world. So I take my language of leaders workshop and I can cater to your audience, whether it's a 45 to 90-minute keynote or a 4-hour workshop, so that we can take real-world ideas, real-world realities, and shift them to a place of empowerment. And that's really what we're talking about today. Today, I was digging into one of the pieces that I talk about often in my language, in my keynotes, even in my books, is the shit words that do not serve. And I went out with a woman a couple of weeks ago who also does what I do, neurolinguistics programming. It's a fancy way of saying it. Neurolinguistics programming at a 5th grade reading level. Essentially, what I'm doing is I'm shifting perspective, enhancing lives when I shift one word at a time. And someone may say, why does it matter? Some people think it's when I'm talking about things, it's semantics. And really, it's a lot more than semantics. It's all about rewiring your brain. Back in 2021, Harvard Business Journal did a study where they had students go on stage for a 3-minute impromptu speech. Half of the students said to themselves, I am excited before they got on stage. The other half said, I am anxious before they got on stage. The students that said, I am excited performed significantly better than the ones that said I was anxious. They were more confident. So from the audience's perspective, they performed better. From their own perspective, they felt more confident because nervousness was ultimately the feeling that they had. And what neurolinguistics programming does is you pre-plant an idea in your head by saying, I'm excited, I'm anticipating a favorable outcome, versus I am anxious, I am anticipating an unfavorable outcome. And based on that, your brain, your body, ultimately the words that come out are impacted by that. And you're able to perform. So it's not about semantics. It's truly about rewiring your brain. I use the algebraic example when I do my keynotes. Right? And remember back in grade school or high school when you were in algebra, you had this big equation, right? And there's an equal sign in between. You did this side and that side, and exponents and multiplication and addition and subtraction, and you came up with an answer. And all too often, the answer was wrong. And the answer wasn't wrong because every step of the process was wrong. It was wrong because one step of the process was wrong. You multiplied instead of adding. You added before dividing, whatever you ended up doing. And yet, when you make that one shift, you get the right result. And it's no different than the words you use day in and day out within your brain and the ones you speak out to existence. Once you say it, it becomes real. When it's a thought is when you have the opportunity to then shape it. Stephen Covey, 7 Habits of Highly Effective People, talks about how your thoughts ultimately reap your destiny. And your thoughts are governed by the words that you implant into each day. I also know from start, stop, continue methodology of change, between start, stop, and continue, stop has the greatest impact on the way we live our lives. When you talk to people about what are their challenges, if it's nutrition or they're wanting to lose weight, right? What's the thing that has the greatest impact? What they're eating. Stop eating the fried food. Put down the spoon, right? That has a greater impact than the amount of times you go to the gym. You want to get healthier, stop smoking cigarettes or vaping or doing whatever those practices are, and you'll increase your lung capacity, which allows you to exercise more. For me, stopping drinking was significant. I wanted to have a healthier lifestyle. I wanted to sleep better, and stopping drinking had a greater impact on my life than anything else I've done. And yet, stopping certain behaviors, comfortable behaviors, is the thing that's most challenging, complicated, difficult for some people, and yet I would argue it's the simplest thing to do. When you stop a certain behavior, when you stop using certain language, you get the opportunity to creatively replace the language. In my book, I talk about the 13 words or phrases, shit words that do not serve. Something as simple as if versus when. If is ambiguous. It may or may not happen. It's like a maybe. While when is okay. It's clearly in front of me. It's clearly on my path. When I get there, this is what I'm going to do. I talk about when then language. I also talk about the word should. There's those people that should, could, no. I talk about should as in no should it on yourself. I should do this. It means nothing. It's passive. There's no commitment. There's no movement with should. So I do an exercise on stage, say should, could, can, will. And so we go from a should, which feels like an obligation, all the way to a will, which is a commitment. And so that's what the 7-day challenge is all about. When you find yourself using one of these busy words, either eliminate it entirely, like the word busy being a state of mind. There's no verb to busy. There's no action to busy. Someone can draw out or describe me what busy looks like and add in a verb, the verb of being busy, right? Either eliminate certain words in their entirety, which eliminates the whole sentence, which eliminates the entire excuse you're telling yourself, or replace the word with an honest adjustment. As some people may know, DTFT, that's what I live by. I have it tattooed on my arm. Do the fucking thing. I talk about it at the end of every single episode because all too often people say, try. I'm trying to do that. I'm trying to do that, or this or that. And yet it's everywhere in our pop culture. The greatest minds like Yoda know that try does not serve. Do or do not. There is no try. One of the reasons why that is my mantra, my battle cry for life, is because all too often I use this idea of I tried as an excuse for my lack of movement, my lack of momentum, my lack of decision, and followed by action because I was trying merely. Everything I stand here and talk to you about today are things that I have, in fact, struggled with at some point. Hell, I might even suffered from them at some point. And now I live a life where I strive for greatness, the use of language. Because I've been that person that lacked confidence, that person that made up my confidence with competence and wanted to be overly competent because deep down, I didn't think I was good enough. And so I used that language habitually and I convinced myself what I wasn't instead of focusing on what I am. I talk about the 6 most powerful sentences. I've had them on my board for a few months now. I was toying with the idea, what are these sentences? I started with 5 and I came up with 6 eventually. I am, I can, I feel. I know, I want, I will. When you replace limiting self-language with those 6 sentences, you will be more successful. I think is insignificant. I think is soft. People will not rally behind what you think is a good idea. They will rally behind your commitment to excellence. They will rally behind what you know. Maybes don't move mountains. This is your opportunity to replace these words. And when I talk about the 7-day challenge, it's really that simple. Over the next 7 days, from the day you're watching this episode, shift that language. I can't, I won't, I don't. What can you do? What will you do? What is it you do? Why are you on this earth? And I catch myself doing this all the time. Last week, like I said, I was in Missouri. I was on stage performing, talking to people about this exact thing, and I found myself doing it. I found myself using a comma but. I will use the default position of I don't know. And in front of 300 people in a live audience getting paid to speak, I too failed at this, and I took the time to change the sentence in real time. And people appreciated that. Also, I was down in the Bible Belt, and I was concerned see, I'm doing it right now. I was concerned when I walked up on stage and said shit words that do not serve, that I would lose the audience. And I warmed them up. I started by telling empathetic stories. I embraced the audience before I used the word shit. And when I used it in the sentence, shit happens when we're talking about things that happen near us. And then I said shit words that do not serve. And then the audience kind of warmed up. By the end of it, these people that were a little apprehensive about this 6'4" guy in a camel pants and a t-shirt, all of a sudden came out to me and did the old, all right, this is what I'm struggling with, right? And it was all rooted in language. When people were telling me the narrative and the story, people are looking for the story arc, and I'm listening for the word like can't, won't, don't, thinking, talking, trying, busy, easy, hard. And as soon as I pick that one word out of the sentence, the narrative all goes to shit. Everything changes when one thing changes. And so a lot of times I come up here and I talk about these deeper ideas and there's real deep work that we can do. And yet this week is very simple. It's a simple challenge to you to use language that's empowering. It is clear. It is creative. It is confident. When you use language like that, you start reshaping the story you tell yourself someday. You no longer feed that wolf of hate and insecurity and anxiety. You start feeding the wolf of love, abundance, security, safety. And when you feed that wolf, you'll be like those students at Harvard that stood up on the stage doing something like public speaking, one of the most fearful things that we do as Americans. And you'll perform better for yourself and everybody around you. Again, it comes down to that one word. My why in this world is to change the world one word at a time. You have the opportunity this week to change one word, to change your world. Take on the challenge this week. Do the fucking thing. Tell the fucking world. Get out there. Tell people who you are and what you're doing. Have them rally behind what you're doing. And most importantly, show the fuck up for yourself this week. When you find yourself using that limiting language, take the time to stop and reset regardless of who is watching. Take that time. You owe it to yourself to live the life you want to live. And it starts with the words you're telling yourself. I'll see you next week.